Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. In my more traditional role of games critique and industry commentary, I often find myself calling out shady business practices and behavior that could be determined as being less than consumer-friendly by games developers and publishers alike. However, it's not very often that I find myself defending them or their statements in regards to a video game that I have been highly critical of in the past. However, in a video released earlier today, The No have made assertions that EA is blaming gamers and critics alike for their abandonment of Mass Effect Andromeda in an effort to seemingly dramatize a minor news article. And while I'm acutely aware that there are a good number of channels that will over-dramatize content in order to garner additional views, statements made by The No would serve as a galvanizing effect against an EA representative who was guilty of nothing more than expressing his own thoughts surrounding Andromeda.
Is it possible that the memes, the bad reviews, the angry commenters went a little bit too far? Well, that's what EA is claiming.
Now that BioWare has confirmed that they're shelving any future development on the game, EA is starting to talk just a little bit more about its reception. And their opinion is that the game was criticized unfairly and totally didn't deserve its reputation.
Its cancellation is your fault.
How dare you, Internet?
Exactly.
Now, just so people are aware, The No has used more than one story broken by my channel in the past, and they've always treated that information responsibly, never blowing it out of proportion, and always crediting my channel when the credit was due. As I've had that experience with them in the past, they'd managed to earn a modicum of respect from me, at least on a personal level if nothing else. However, I'm not one for inciting anger within the gaming community where none is rightfully deserved. In spite of The No's assertions that EA's Executive Vice President Patrick Söderlund blames gamers for the harsh criticism driving EA away from supporting the game, his statements made to Sam Bishop of Game Reactor were somewhat more benign. In the referenced article, Söderlund stated the following: "Well, I think my personal opinion is, I think that the game, I usually don't do this, but this is one of those places where I feel like the game got criticized a little bit more than it deserved. I think the game is actually a great game. Yes, we have to acknowledge the fact that there were some things that maybe we could have done better, absolutely. But as a whole, if you go in and you buy the game today with everything that's in it today, I believe that that's a game worth buying personally. And at the game's current price point, after it has received multiple patches, I would actually agree with Söderlund's estimation. The flaw that I find with that statement, though, is that the vast majority of opinions rendered in regards to the game were done so at launch. And at launch, the game was extremely buggy with a litany of glitches, bugs, poor animations, weak story full of plot holes, and a great deal of painfully obvious copy-pasted content. The game itself felt like the core framework of Dragon Age Inquisition, with a Mass Effect skin poorly slapped over the top and a painfully shallow and underdeveloped story tacked on. The list of errors at launch are simply too numerous to list short of an hour-long video, which some channels have done, but I won't go into a full recounting of them here. My own experience with the game at launch was one of extreme mediocrity. As cynical as I usually am, I admit even I was excited at the prospect of a new Mass Effect game after all these years. I personally could forgive a lot as long as the characters in the story were memorable and lived up to the quality of BioWare pre-Dragon Age 2. Even to the point of taking a week off of work so I could be sure to have enough time to play the game in its entirety and be able to render a full review instead of just a simple first impression. I even drove my daughter a little nuts with my excitement, even though I knew going in that the graphics and game's stability would be far from what one would deem acceptable for a AAA game. And given one of the leads on the project was none other than the now infamous racist Manveer Hare, and the writer of the story was the same person that claimed she was raped in Grand Theft Auto V, coupled with the game being handled by a dwindling and understaffed Montreal studio instead of the entirety of BioWare, the writing was on the wall for many people before the game even launched. However, now you can purchase Mass Effect Andromeda Deluxe Edition for $22.50, and for that price, I feel the game is good value for the money. I even think the game could reasonably be sold for $40. However, the massive problems between the Frostbite engine and their doggedly attempting to implement procedural generation, which ultimately failed, resulting in a true development cycle of 18 months, means that in no conceivable way do I agree with anyone's estimation that Mass Effect Andromeda would be worth a full $60 or $80. But even then, I would not assert that the executive VP of EA blames gamers for the game being abandoned, as that is just simply not true. It is sensationalism, not journalism, and lying to consumers does not provide them with what they need to know to make accurate and informed decisions. As such, I vehemently disagree with No's assertions, and I don't find them appropriate. Even still, this happening does bring up a good point that I would like to remind everyone of. Even by looking at the comments on my own videos, it's a constant reminder that my opinions and the opinions of my viewers often do not coincide. I think this is actually a good thing and it will help breed important discourse, but it also brings up a perfect example that you should never trust a single critic or news source in regards to anything. I know that people's tastes are singular, just as are opinions. They are a highly subjective thing that is unique to the individual. Critics and news presenters can do their best to provide as much factual information as possible, but humans are a subjective species by our very nature. So please don't ever trust any one individual or channel. Not the No, not Jim Sterling, not Total Biscuit or Angry Joe, and most certainly not myself. We are all human beings and are capable of making mistakes. Please make sure you're doing your due diligence in gathering as much information as you can before making a decision or forming an opinion. That said, please do let me know what you think down in the comments below. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.